Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. We provide an alternative view to the common narrative. Today we're going to have a look at Poland and how their military expansion will affect the Ukrainian-Russian war. So Putin made a statement and said that Poland is attempting to annex the northern part of Ukraine, the northwestern part of Ukraine. So at the top.
Yeah.
So
The area bordering Poland, yes.
yeah. So what effect does that have on
Well,
situation?
my opinion is that the Polish people are a little bit psycho.
Oh, we said this before.
Yeah. They are fairly aggressive and irrational, in my opinion.
Fanatic.
No, they sometimes have these stupid ideas. It's like if you go to the back to the Second World War, um, they did the cross-border raids. Like I said, I told you before, my aunt, your aunt, was there. So she experienced these raids. Those were not Germans, and it bothered Hitler. Then there was the corridor dispute where Hitler had supplied Danzig and the Eastern Prussia, and Polish people, Polish minister said no, and that aggravated the whole story. And then also at that stage, which nobody really talks about, is that Poland had, I wouldn't say ethnic cleansing, but it was targeting Germans, Jews, Hungarians, and Romanians that were situated in Poland itself at that stage. So there was quite a bit of violence against foreigners, call it, in Poland. And at the end of the day, we all know that is how the Second World War started. Despite all the other stuff. I mean, they did that, and then they got the support of Britain, who signed with him a defensive pact with him to come and assist them if Poland was attacked. But we also know that never happened. So the Polish had a little bit of fun. And after the Second World War, there were about 10 German provinces that was part of the German Reich, which after the peace agreement or the signing of the peace or the amnesty, in my opinion, it's an amnesty. It wasn't a peace agreement. The Polish government was instructed to administrate 10 of the German provinces, if you want to call it like, including Danzig and East Prussia. So they were only supposed to administrate them, but as we know today, they're all part of Poland.
They stole them, basically.
So they took over these German provinces and they become part of Poland. And what also happened is during the Second World War, and we have these Ukrainians there, and you have the right wing type of Nazi people in there, and they're all type
Neo-Nazis.
Remember Banderas?
Oh yeah, I was going to ask about that.
But Banderas was born in Galicia, which is in the northwest of Poland, Ukraine, and he was fighting the Polish people. So and that was until the Germans overtook him, and then he came back to Ukraine. But he fought the Polish people and was captured by the Polish people.
Wasn't it on Germany's behalf?
Yeah, but later on he was freed. But firstly, before the war, he was fighting against the Polish people. He was a sort of a rebel, if you want to call it like that.
So there was basically amnesty between Poland and Ukraine.
Yeah, well, they were not in the war. That part where the fight, when Banderas was born and fought, was part of Poland. And now we have basically when the war ended and so on, and everybody was sort of, new borders were drawn after the Second World War. And it's not only the Second World War, there were other skirmishes, there were other treaties, there was a Soviet Union that became part of everything. And so it's a fairly complicated history in terms of bordering. But the bottom line is that the northwestern part of Ukraine, there's a lot of Polish people living. There's also on the left and on the western side, there's Hungarian people, or an enclave if you want to see it, and there's Romanian people. So that side is not clearly defined by the population itself, but it is within the Ukrainian border. And well, that is the status of today.
Mm.
Now, again, the Polish people have a very funny ideas. It's
Mm.
firstly that they, after how many years, 80 years, they want repatriation and war repatriation from
Yeah, they
Germany.
want to.
If that succeeds, they want war reparations from Russia,
Yeah.
which is not the Soviet Union. And
Don't they?
they're
Yeah.
also keen on restoring some of the Polish territory
Yeah.
that was part of them. Well, you don't know when. Maybe before the Second World War or something like that.
What about the bodies that they want to uncover and
Oh
give
yes,
them a
oh yes,
Christian burial?
oh yes, yes. So, but in any case, before I get to that,
Mm.
so last year, Zelensky and the Polish government made some agreements that the Polish people can come to Ukraine and have the same rights. They don't have to have visas or living rights and so on. They can enjoy Ukrainian social services and etc. etc. Basically, they gave everything except formal citizenship to Polish people.
Wow. So it might as well be.
Yeah. And Poland is one of the, well, they hate the Germans and they hate the Russians, and it's still a question of who do they hate the most.
Yeah.
But in any case,
I know there's also some, let's say, hatred or whatever towards the Ukrainians because of their worshipping of Bandera.
yeah. Well, I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's the point. So, but so they made all these agreements, and then this is not the first time that the rumor comes up that they want to send a peacekeeping force or some other type of force to help Ukraine and occupy this northwestern part, and so forth. And they also send a lot of armament to support Ukraine. But suddenly they came up with this story that their relationship with Ukraine will only be normalized once Ukraine identifies all the victims of Banderas and Ekla, where they were buried, and until all these bodies have been exhumed. So I don't understand that, but that's typical Polish people. On the one side, they support Ukraine to the end and give all the weapons and so on, and make big friendships and become so-called citizens of Ukraine, and on the other side, hey, no.
Apparently, they were busy doing it. They were busy trying to uncover the bodies, and then they were stopped by Zelensky during the war stopped. And so they were actually doing it. It's quite funny.
That doesn't make sense. It's the same thing. It's like, so I read now that Polish wants to create the biggest army in Europe. He wants to become a main factor.
It's left out.
In fact, the normal contributions demanded by NATO is about 2% of GDP. No. Poland's going to do 5%. So they're going to spend a hell of a lot of money on the military. They have about, at this stage, 150,000 troops. They're going to increase it to more than 300,000. They're going to buy... make the list here. Yeah. So in Alpha, they signed, say, 5 billion euros for 250 Abrams tanks, which is supposed to replace those 240 T-70s, 72s to Ukraine. They have about, they have a couple of number of F-16s. And they also signed a $5 billion contract for 32 of the F-35 fighters. And then they wanted, for immediate delivery from Korea, 180 K2 Black Panther tanks and 200 K9 Thunder howitzers and 48 F-850 light attack aircraft and 218 K239 Tomoko rocket launchers.
That's more than Ukraine got from the entire West.
Yeah, but this is what they want now. This is old used stuff from Korea, so it's delivering now.
How do the Koreans feel about
it? But apart from that, they said they're gonna, they expect at the end of the day to buy from the Koreans 1,000 K2 tanks and 600 K9 howitzers. And that should be reached by the mid-2020s to the late 2020s. So these guys are building a huge army up. They're actually bigger than the German army.
Wow.
and that's a big funny. And they're doing all this stuff But then Macron actually said, Macron had the same story. Um, yeah, they want to build a European military to get rid of American
Communal.
influence, American weapons. But Macron wanted European weapons to be bought for European army.
Mm.
And here now goes Poland and go buys from Korea. So Macron are angry with him. So the Polish told the Polish, yes, but if you are more friendly towards us, because when we make laws, you criticize our laws and you criticize our constitution changes, and you consider our
Question our.
question our and criticize our values because it doesn't fit with yours. You see,
Wow, so it's
because
a
they
gossip problem.
because the Polish made some laws which was suiting with them, and then the EU, von der Leyen said, no, that goes against the principle of the EU. But Poland that's another thing. Poland actually gets money from the EU to support the economy. And who pays that? The Germans and the French pay that.
So of course he's going to be upset.
So he gets a subsidy, but apart from subsidies, he's going to use his own money to build the biggest army. So why do you scare, if you've got money for the army, then why do you need the subsidy? In any case, so von der Leyen said, no, we don't agree with your laws, and we're going to withhold, we're going to take them to court. They did that. They're withholding money. There's this sort of subsidization that the Polish people got in order to force them to release, to go against their own values and own sovereignty, which I totally support the Polish people in that respect. I mean, that is my problem that I have with the EU, is that von der Leyen, who's an unelected person, can tell another country what their policy should be and not. It takes over. She's actually the unelected dictator to the European countries. And I don't understand why the Europeans can't see it. They have no, that's why there was Brexit. British wanted to leave Europe because they had no more sovereignty. But I also see that in this case, the British are now recontemplating, they made a mistake. They should have gone, the economic benefits of Brexit didn't happen. They wanted to rejoin the.
Oh, yeah.
But it's again also false. It's that the people that were supposed to organize a Brexit did it in a very bad faith. So they never really properly negotiated because they were always against Brexit. So they made a bad deal. And naturally, that is the consequence of Britain now. But I'm deviating.
Oh, yeah.
Like always. So now we have the Polish people. Now, it's not the first time, like I said, that they wanted to enter Ukraine. But they have been steadily building up their troop strength, their army. They have ordered all these used weapons from Korea. They have shown the intention of being the strongest person. They have shown their hatred for the Russians. And now with the development in Belarus, so Belarus, the problem is Belarus has 30,000 troops. It can't afford more. So it can't really battle Poland itself. It needs assistance for Russia. And that is what Lukashenko has been saying all the time. And Putin has responded, and last year and so on, he did send in some troops and about 100 artillery pieces and 100 tanks and so on in order to assist Lukashenko. And now we have the so-called Wagner group being there, which is totally overrated. But now, because the world has heard so much about Wagner, that is a danger for them to be in Ukraine, in Belarus. And now they have to send their troops to the Polish-Belarus border. So Poland has sent a lot of soldiers and equipment to the border.
In response
to
the war.
For the build-up of the army and for Wagner Group. It only happened once they said that Wagner will go. But the problem is that is speculations. Maybe the intelligence services of the Polish people know something that we don't know, or the military commanders of Poland see something that we don't see, or they just have an own opinion on what they want to do. But in effect, they move their soldiers to the border. And in the meantime, also, uh, Putin has stored some nuclear strategic bombs and its 400 air defense systems in Belarus. So it seems to me it's like heating up. And then there's accusation from Ukraine that Belarus wants to invade from that side. But like I said, the Belarusian army is about 30,000, which is not really an army. And then the amount of Russians is about 8,000 or so, not 10,000. And yes, they say the Wagner group is about 8,000 troops, but I don't believe that. I don't think so. There's a lot less Wagner groups. And if they have to go there, I don't think Belarus has the facility or the use for all of them because they're mostly used for training. And then they have other interests in Africa. And Prigozhin will probably pursue that. It gets him out of the limelight, get him out of the danger zone of being arrested and stuff like that. So that would be more for me the logical section. But then I saw a video of what's this guy's name? Ambassador Dmitry Mironchik. He is ambassador from Belarus. And it was a nice live interview. And, you know, he talked about the economy and he talked about the military. But what interested me mostly actually about it is one statement he made. So they asked him, but, you know, don't you feel more threatened or targeted by storing Russian atomic weapons? Because you now become a target. And he said, no, not really, and because that's what most people don't understand. Apparently, there was I think it was a military exercise performed by the Americans in 2016. That's 7 years back. And they were evolving this whole military exercise. They were losing, actually. And then they said, but let's use nuclear weapons, strategic weapons. And then one guy asked him, but where should we bomb it? He says, but let's bomb Belarus. And they said, why Belarus? They're not in the war. He said, no, it doesn't matter because they are friends of Russia. So it doesn't really matter whether you have nuclear bombs or not. You are still a target because you are a friend of some form of enemy. So the fact, you know, this whole idea of nuclear weapons in any case is ridiculous. I cannot think that any sane people would like to press that button and start World War. There's also this, you know, I'm sorry to say, there's a ridiculous narrative on the pro-Russian side that so say the counteroffensive of the Ukrainians were successful, and say they took back the Kherson Oblast and Zaporizhzhia, and then Crimea, which was the main target. Then Russia, by their doctrine, might use nuclear weapons. No, that's not what the Russian doctrine says. It says when the Russian state is under threat. That means they can lose territory and so on. That's fine. They can always recover it. But if the physical state, or in this case, say Moscow, becomes under threat and they will lose the war, not the battle, the war, then they might use nuclear weapons. So I'm not sure where these guys come with this theory. It's totally an alpha one-sided. But that also unfortunately happens. So, and then, hey, remember how the Polish student came and visited us?
Oh, yeah. We had some Polish exchange students.
Yeah, so for the people that know it, we had, when my son was in a school, he went actually to Poland on a school trip. And he met a lot of Polish people there. And in response, those Polish students then came back to South Africa for about 3 weeks now.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and they stayed here and we showed them a little bit around. And we met the people. And I've got to say they are a little bit different. But they're very nice people.
Very nice, but very great. Yeah.
But they had a different view about life, you know. But no, they were very nice. So it's not really that I'm against the Polish people. It's just that sometimes, if you look at the situation, it might happen like in the Second World War. Some or other rogue commander from a rogue squad might decide what is going to cross the Belarusian Polish border and attack some Belarusian farmers, whatever, just like in the Second World War. And then, oopsie, Belarus has to respond. And if Belarus responds, then Putin has to respond. And there we go.
Like dominoes.
Yeah. Or even if the Polish people invade Ukraine, then they're going to sit there. And is Russia going to treat them as a military target, or what are they going to do? They have to actually treat them as a military target. But they are a NATO country. So will the NATO join? Will Macron and Scrolls then join the fight? I don't think so. But what do we really know about this whole story?
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. But there are Polish people, I don't know. For me, it's irrational, but for them, it might be totally rational thinking. Oh, well. I say we live in interesting times.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you have heard my opinion about the Polish people. Don't take it personally if you are a Polish person.
No hate.
We had the experience and met some of you, and you are very nice. But I also saw a number of videos or TV series. They were also good. So I have nothing against the Polish people. But sometimes I do irrational, funny things. So I can't help myself. But this is, in any case, the end of our video for today. Hopefully you will subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friend if you haven't. Press the like button, which we always appreciate. And do this thing, leave a comment, which we highly like. And until next time then. Cheers.
Bye.